The Old Regime and the French Revolution is an 1856 historical and sociological study by the French historian Alexis de Tocqueville. First published in France, the work seeks to interpret the profound rupture of the French aristocratic system that occurred in the final decades of the 18th century. Tocqueville frames his analysis with a thorough understanding of French society prior to the Revolution, a framework he calls the Ancien Regime. He argues that this very system unintentionally laid the groundwork for a mass popular revolt. Central to his thesis is the theory of continuity, which suggests that the French government could not have severed its ties to the old autocratic structures without the added upheaval of the revolution. Instead, the government clung to historical class hierarchies and centralized power until the populace forced a decisive change. The book is widely regarded as one of the foundational modern studies of the French Revolution. Tocqueville opens by outlining the primary aims of the French Revolution, which raged from 1789 to 1799. He notes that growing public opposition to religious authority was an initial destabilizing force. This resistance arose not merely from dissatisfaction with a government intertwined with the church, but also because the church itself embodied the Ancien Regime. Furthermore, Tocqueville stresses that the French people did not intend to plunge their nation into chaos. The uprising gained momentum because citizens sought to reform society and politics in a constructive manner. He challenges the notion held by many revolutionaries that the monarchy had become overwhelmingly powerful before its collapse. In reality, the populace had already begun reclaiming authority from the crown, gradually transforming France into a more democratic society. Tocqueville contends that the revolution's purpose was not to fundamentally restructure French society. Its chief achievement, which it accomplished, was dismantling archaic feudal institutions that had persisted for centuries across Europe and were widely seen as obsolete. Equality and freedom, the hallmarks absent under feudalism, formed the revolution's core pillars. He contrasts the political evolution of France with that of the United States. Post-revolution, France remained governed by a strong central authority, whereas the U.S. embraced a democratic model reliant on active participation and voting by ordinary citizens. In America, private individuals were the foundation of political and economic life, while the revolution in France sought to preserve a bureaucratic centralized government even after abolishing the monarchy. Tocqueville also traces the origins of the revolution to the three principal social orders: the nobility, the clergy, and the commoners, collectively referred to as the three estates. Before the revolution, these estates operated within tightly intertwined political, social, and economic spheres. Feudal lords were closely connected to their vassals, but as feudalism waned, nobles relocated to Paris, leaving their estates to hired managers, creating a widening gulf between them and the rural populace. Meanwhile, a rising middle class emulated the wealthier class's manners and lifestyles. Yet, the distinctions between estates could not endure as modernization fostered new channels for trade and communication. By the late 1700s, resentment toward these obsolete hierarchies was widespread, and hostility toward the nobility was particularly intense. In his study, Tocqueville does not attribute the revolution to a single cause, asserting instead that its origins are complex. Yet he maintains that the factors leading to the revolution were highly visible and, in retrospect, almost inevitable if one examined the enduring social and economic structures that had governed France for centuries. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this video, leave a like and subscribe.